Just before he was Vader, he was flying in this vehicle. Here's a look at the Jazzwares Star Wars Micro Galaxy Squadron Series 3, Anakin Skywalker's Jedi Starfighter. Build your fleet with Star Wars Micro Galaxy Squadron Starfighter Class Series 3 box set. This limited edition collection is exclusive to Jazzwares Vault and features all 5 Series 3 5-inch Starfighter class packs, including both rare and chase vehicles. Complete your collection with the Anakin Skywalker's Jedi Starfighter, V-Wing Starfighter, Poe Dameron's T-70 X-Wing, General Grievous's Starfighter, and Poe Dameron's T-70 X-Wing Blue and White. While we get ready for hyperspace travel, I'm going to grab the tape measure and see how long Anakin Skywalker's Starfighter is before we're going to bring in the micro figures that belong along with it. Like as well to thank the folks over at Jazzwares that did provide this sample we could have a look at. Even though really all these vehicles are sold separately in stores, they actually were kind enough to provide the Starfighter Class Series 3 box set, which is right now an exclusive over on their Vault site to a very limited run of only 1,500 pieces, and it sells for $100. Instead of actually looking at all 5 vehicles at the same time, being that all the 5 vehicles are also sold separately, I thought it would be perfect time to have a look at them individually so we could spend a little bit more time discussing them. Back though to the starship here belonging to Anakin, from the back end of the starship, as I'm pointing right now, to the front end of it, you're looking at it being about 5.5 inches in length. Flip that around though in centimeters, it's 14 centimeters long. Along with Anakin's ride, the vehicle does come included with a hyperspace transport ring. Some assembly though was required when you actually get this out of the packaging, as the top and the bottom rings were separate pieces. Fairly straightforward in fact to actually attach these. I don't know if I can actually do this right now because really once you put them in place, they pretty much lock in place. But I did want to actually take these apart because I wanted to show you, when you are putting them together, this, by the way, is going to face forward, so the thrusters are actually going to be on the back of the starship. But when you're putting them in place, you'll see there's a slot right here, and then there's a little slot tab on this side, but it's not on the opposite side. So it'll sort of help to tell you which way it's supposed to go. So again, if you're looking at it from the front, the back parts that have the kind of indentations here will also be pointing at the back. And then you'll look on the bottom of it and you'll see that, see how this has a little slot right here? Well, if the slot isn't on this side, then you know you have to put it on the opposite side. So again, slot here goes into the now little open part right here in the open hole. Fit those two in place, snap it in, and then you're basically just going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So again, this is going to have to face, so again, you're looking at it from the front. This is the part that's going to be facing backwards. So again, it's just lining up the shapes and snapping them in place. Now, the only thing, unfortunately, about, though, getting the hyperspace ring is that once you do put it attached onto the starship, there's no real way to balance the vehicle. I did at the beginning of this review sort of cheat, and I used myself a display stand, but it doesn't come included with the starship. I do kind of wish, in a way, if they take the time to include something like this, take also the time as well to include a little display stand, even if it was just a simple rectangular piece of plastic with a little post sticking out. It could have then plugged onto the underside of the starship. The starship, by the way, though, does have landing gears. The landing gears fold out from the sides. It also folds out from the front. While the sides are fairly easy to access, it's just a case of kind of getting your finger in there and pulling them out. And they sit pretty decently. I did have a little bit of struggle more, though, in the front. The front has a hard time, first of all, trying to get out. And even if you're having a struggle to do this, you can kind of get yourself a little bit of a knife here. Just something, a screwdriver, a knife, whatever, just to kind of get the plastic lip out there. But once it's out, I find it doesn't lock in place very easily. I find a lot of times I'm feeling like I'm forcing almost to the point, you can see it snaps itself back. Again, in hindsight, I probably should have used myself a screwdriver for this, but again, pulling this forward, it seems like there's a lot of resistance to it. See how it doesn't quite sit. And a lot of times, even when you're putting this down, it ends up resulting in pushing the landing gear back in. Anyways, though, if you did want to attach the hyperspace ring, it's just a case. Again, this is going to be facing forward like this. So what you'll do is flip this around. You'll want to fold in the front landing gear, and then you'll literally slide the starship in, and it locks in place. So there's like these little tabs on either side. You can see, looking at it from the top, how it leaves a little lip from the top and the bottom, and basically just maneuver the ship right into it. You have to get it underneath those pieces, but once it gets in place, I also want to flip it around so you guys can see as well. There's a little hole right here, and there's a tab or a little hole, a little peg right there, and that's going to fit. You don't even have to really guide it either. Eventually, we'll get in there on its own. Basically, again, you're just going to take the plastic, take the starship, feed it through the front, If I can get it all, there we go, locking it in place. And once it is locked in place, it's not going anywhere. To remove it, by the way, you're just going to have to get your finger. So that little tab that ends up fitting inside the hole, if you just put your finger underneath that, pull it, it ends up, actually it pops out the starship, ends up sending it for a ride. So again, you're just going to slide that back in place. We're going to come back, I think, to the ring in a second. The one other thing that comes included with the starship, of course, is minifigures. The micro figures, I love the way that they package these. They come inside of little clamshell case. You got Anakin Skywalker, telling you right down below here, and you also got R2-D2. Opening it up, it's just a case of folding back the paper, and then you're just going to pull these out. Now, the figures, though, aren't securely inside, so you want to make sure that when you're opening these, don't open them forward, because the figures fall out quite frequently. Having a closer look, though, at Anakin, it's kind of really hard to make out his finer features. One of the benefits, at least, of the camera that I use. How close can I get in? How close can I get in? I can get pretty close. You guys can see, hopefully, his face. Well, it's not painted. I mean, it would be impossible to paint something so small. I would also say maybe his head is a little too large for the proportions of his body, but I'm not going to nickel and dime, not going to nitpick this for the size of what this figure actually is. I mean, like, there's my thumb. There's the figure itself. It does actually have posability in the arms, which was surprising. Doesn't seem like his head can move, but you can also, of course, move his legs down, because the whole idea in mind is that Anakin's going to be sitting inside the cockpit. He also comes included a little tiny R2 as well. Now, again, R2, for how small this is, I would say maybe like some of the paint is missing its mark, but overall the sculpting of what this actually is, I think they've pulled this out rather nicely. Whoa, I don't want to drop that. R2, though, has no articulation, none whatsoever. When you are attaching R2, R2 literally is going to slide into the open area here on the front of the starship. It does, unfortunately, leave an unsightly hole and looks a little on the ugly side when you don't actually have R2 sitting inside of it. R2, by the way, does have a hole in the bottom of his body, and that basically just fits inside, just like that. When you push it far enough down, by the way, what it ends up doing is it pushes this section of the plastic up. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. See, I'm pushing it. I'm pushing R2 in right now. It kind of pushes this out on the other side. So it helps to then release R2. Now, the packaging, it sort of does exaggerate things that once you push the button on the bottom, R2 goes ping across the room. He doesn't go ping across the room. But again, just to push the button on the bottom here, it's supposed to really help to release R2. But a lot of times I just find pushing it just a little bit, you can kind of wiggle R2 back and forth. There we go. And you just take him out that way. It certainly does it across the room. And then, of course, we'll open up also the canopy for the cockpit. The canopy did have a little bit persuading to do in order to open it. You kind of, there's a lip right there. You just get your finger underneath this and just pull this forward. I would say, like, well, the canopy looks good. It's a little messy on the side. It does seem to have like some additional, almost seemed like what's left behind of the mold when this came out of the press. I wish they could have cleaned this up a little bit more. It looks nice on this side. It doesn't look as nice, though, on the other side. If you look at the inside, though, well, it's missing sticker applications or paint for that matter. It's decently sculpted for how small really this is. Then you're going to take yourself Anakin, fold in the legs, and then you're just going to tuck Anakin inside the cockpit. He sits low enough in there as well that you can then take the canopy, fold it over top. Oh, you want to see what he looks like inside? Okay, hold on. There we go. There he is sitting inside the canopy, the cockpit. No stickers. Again, no paint. I don't think it necessarily needs it either. And then we're just going to fold down the canopy. Then we can go back and grab R2 before R2 rolls away or Jawas end up stealing him. Just push him back down in there in place. And now you've got both Anakin and R2 sitting inside the Starfighter. Starfighter, by the way, is pretty light in plastic. It's molded, what I'm guessing, in gray plastic, and then they've just painted some of the yellow accents there, the details. Paint's pretty neatly applied. I mean, I don't see any real paint problems at all. It's got, of course, the little symbol there on the side. It's also got two on either side of the back of the canopy. Thrusters there also in the back. They didn't take the time to paint those in. And then, of course, the undercarriage of the ship. Landing gear on the front, landing gears on the back. Yeah, again, it's a nice-looking starship. Whether you decide, though, you want to display it with the hyperspace ring. Let's just move everything out of the way. Get the transport ring back in place. The only thing, again, I would say is, obviously, if you have it on its own, it's not going to be so much of a problem. Obviously, the biggest issue really is just getting the front landing gear out again. Once you get that out, you can really just have the starship standing on its own. It doesn't even necessarily need the transport ring. If, though, the fact that they actually included it, you probably will end up wanting to display it with it, but just, unfortunately, like, once you put it in place, there's nothing to keep the starship from falling over. That if they only had simply added just a hole on the back here, a little post, a little rectangular piece of plastic, you could then have been able to display both the starship with, again, like the hyperspace ring on the front. Again, we'll slot everything in place, make sure I've got it facing the right way. And again, we'll just line everything up. Do I have it all the way in? I don't think I have it all the way in. Just line everything up here. Sometimes this is actually, honestly, the hardest thing to do. There we go. And then you get everything going. Now, again, I'm going to bring back in the display stand. Full disclosure, it does not actually come included with the display stand. But it helps just, at least for right now, to balance this up, even though, again, it doesn't really technically belong. This is, again, maybe not this size, because obviously that's a lot of additional plastic to produce a rectangular piece like this. But again, like, I think they could have easily added just a tiny little display stand with just a clear post, something to attach on the undercarriage of it. Other than that, though, I like the look, though, of the starship. It turned out really nice. I mean, Anakin Skywalker has a really interesting-looking Jedi Starfighter. I'd love to see also them release ones, if they haven't already, the ones that we see at the beginning, I think of, is it Star Wars 3, isn't it? Yeah, where actually you see Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you see, of course, Anakin flying around on their dual Jedi Starfighters. I'd love to see them to release those if they haven't already. Wrapping up now the review for the Star Wars Microgalaxy Squadron Anakin Skywalker's Jedi Starfighter. I've got the vehicle displayed with both R2-D2 and Anakin in their situated places. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to swap them around. R2 may be able to pilot a ship, but Anakin would just die, suffocation out in space. I've also got it displayed with the hyperspace transport ring. While it looks good, though, on the starship, without having the included display stand, I had to use this one from another figure company. There's no real way, because there's so much weight on the back of the starship for obvious reasons, that the starship, if you're looking to have something similarly displayed on your shelf, you're going to have to find something that you have from another figure line and pillage that for display. The fact that they included the hyperspace ring is a nice touch. The fact, though, they didn't include a display stand is one thing that makes the starship suffer. Some of the plastic, like the canopy area, is a little on the frayed side. It looks like they didn't need to... They probably should have cleaned it up a little bit when it came out more of the mold. I don't know if that's going to be with every Jedi Starfighter of Anakin's, or if it just happens to be mine. It's decently painted. I've got a few little issues, though, with the front landing gear coming out and staying out properly. But than that, I like the look of it. It just really needed it to have itself a display stand. Now, again, if you guys are interested to get this one, it is available sold separately. The Microgalaxy Squadron, even though we don't have a whole lot of them here in Canada, I've only seen the off chance. Gone to a local store, and in the off chance, maybe I've seen one or two. So once again, distribution isn't here the greatest in Canada, but is normally sold separately in stores. Or if you haven't had any luck, like I haven't had any luck, you can also pick up the entire 5-set Series 3 Starfighter class box set over on the Jazzwares Vaults site. As of right now, at the time of shooting this review, it's limited to 2 per person. So if you're planning to go in there and scoop up all of the Starship squadrons, it's not going to happen. You can only buy 2 at the same time, putting them into your cart, and they're currently selling right now for $100. I think for $100, considering that we have actually a couple of chase of the Squadron vehicle releases, like Poe Dameron's X-Wing that we'll be looking at in an upcoming review, that's a very limited run starship. So if you didn't want to have to go the efforts of going through eBay to try to track these down individually and spending crazy, stupid prices to get them, instead, rather, go to Jazzwares' site, the Vault exclusive, and pick this up for yourself. It's $100 for the set of 5. Big thank you once again to the folks over at Jazzwares that did provide the sample of the Starship. Even though this is the Starfighter Class Series 3 box set, we're kind of breaking things down. We're looking at them individually. Today we were having a look at the Micro Galaxy Squadron Series 3 Anakin Skywalker's Jedi Starfighter. I don't even know how I'm going to be able to fit that all in the title. Have you guys been collecting any of the Micro Galaxy Squadron vehicles? Let me know down below in the comment section which ones you have, or if this is a line you guys could see yourselves getting into. If also you guys enjoyed this video, I want to throw it a like. If you guys, want to stick around for the content because you're enjoying the content. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification. We have 1 down. We're going to still look at the remaining 4 that make up this set. So hopefully you guys are going to be coming back for those individual reviews. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.